Louis Sutherland looking big for his fight with Walter Walker. He weighed in at 264.5 pounds. Walker's going to be looking to get another heel hook victory, 4 in a row. Tatiana Suarez tired of someone talking trash on Twitter about her and Patchy Mix. Always talking shit on Twitter like a little bitch. Don't worry, I can always catch you at an event. We shall see if you have anything to say then. It's like, dude, I was your friend and now you had the audacity to be cruel to someone I love. Patchy Mix was in the news recently about a drug test a year and a half ago in Bellator in France that had regulators with two different opinions.
In this octagon of life, together we will fight.
Usman Nurmagomedov was at the UFC 321 weigh-ins, and he was talking to Hunter Campbell. A lot of people want him in the UFC, and that's a guy who Hunter Campbell would probably want in the UFC as well. Just in case he wants to fight Ilia Topuria next for the title, he wants to fight him at the White House June 14th.
The next fight, I am planning on fighting whenever Ilia Topuria is fighting. I was hoping they would let me fight him in January, but I can't really see that happening now. The biggest question is, when is Ilia fighting again? I don't know the answer to that, and I don't know that anybody except him and his team know the answer to that. Best case scenario now is they just put us on the White House card. I cannot imagine why they would not put that fight on that card. You know, he's a champ. He's very popular. I'm an American, just as deserving as anybody in the lightweight division. I've never not shown up for a fight, never let the UFC down, never failed them, and I've always been there for them. So I expect to get that fight and represent the United States of America on the White House front.
Topuria says he'd rather fight Paddy Pimblett because they have a rivalry and it'll be a more entertaining fight in his opinion. Whether he fights in January and the first fight under the Paramount deal, which is the rumor, he doesn't confirm or deny that, but he just says there's really nothing official at the moment. I haven't had any official conversations with the UFC either. Everything is just rumors so far. As soon as I get the call, I'll be able to tell you more. But for now, it's just rumors. As to who he'd rather fight, he does say he would prefer to fight Paddy Pimblett because there's history between us. And I think it'd be a much more entertaining fight for the fans. At the end of the day, I compete to entertain everyone and give them a unique experience. I think Paddy, we would achieve that. But regardless of what I want, the final decision, the final say comes from the UFC. Azat Maxim missed weight by 3 pounds for his fight with Mitch Raposo. 30% of his purse gets forfeited to Mitch Raposo and the fight goes on. Jose Delgado missed weight by 1 pound for his fight with Nathaniel Wood. Alan Nascimento has a new opponent November 1st at the UFC Apex. It's Cody Durden. Durden's coming off a loss to Jose Ochoa. He has lost 4 of his last 5 fights. Usman says he didn't want to fight Bilal Muhammad because he's a dork or something along those lines. His aspirations are fighting for the title, but he's not entitled to any title shot right now. Granted, he did look good in his last fight against Buckley, but with that victory, he's on a 1-fight win streak. He's 1-3 in his last 4 fights. He's a couple big wins away from talking about fighting for the title, so he's a bit entitled in terms of the title.
Why are you not getting in the octagon with him instead of Ian?
Well, we didn't have a lot of back and forth. It was just a lot coming from him. I just think he's a dork. And, you know, what you do with dork is you ignore them. Because, and this is a question, I like that question. This is the thing is, for someone like myself and Bilal Muhammad, right now Bilal Muhammad is ranked, what, number 1 in the division? And I'm below him. I'm looking at the title. I've been where he hasn't been. Yes, of course he's been the champion, but we saw what happened when it was time for you to defend. And so I have nothing to gain from fighting Bilal Muhammad. He has all to get. That's why he's the one calling me out. He has all to gain from me. I'm not here to waste time. I want to get the title, and I want to continue on my track of defending and being that champion again. Why waste time with him? If I have the title and he's the next guy, I would luckily kick his head in.
Bilal Muhammad says he's saying a bunch of words just to say he doesn't want to get slapped again. He said he slapped him on his podcast, and that podcast was never released. Terrible answer. Doesn't make sense. If you want a shot at the title, you got to be the number 1 ranked guy. It's that simple. Summary, he doesn't want to take that risk. Usman is a legendary fighter, but he needs more wins in order to prove he's a top fighter at 38. He has 3 losses in the last 4 fights. He had a good win over Buckley in his last fight, but he needs a high-profile win like a Brady or a Bilal to be demanding title fights. Luckily, he'll kick his head in. What the F is he trying to say? Maybe he meant happily kick his head in. Kevin Holland says driving the tractor is a big no-no right now, so his groin's still hurting from that groin shot last weekend at UFC Vancouver. Holland dropped the decision in that fight. Mike Malott won a decision over Holland, so he entered the rankings after that victory. Some people believe Holland, some people think he's milking it. Now he's lost 2 in a row. He's the most active UFC fighter, but inconsistent in his results. Lose 2, win 2, lose 2, win 1, lose 2, win 2, lose 2, win 2, no contest, lose 2. Kevin Holland had 5 fights this year. De Ridder had 4 fights this year, including one against Kevin Holland. Merab will have his 4th fight this year on December 6th. And also on December 6th, Joshua Van will have his 4th fight, takes on Pantoja, trying to win the flyweight belts. Pantoja looking to defend his belt for the 5th time. Merab looking to defend his belt for the 4th time. He's caught up close to Pantoja in a very short period of time in terms of title defenses because he was so active this year. Both champions are favored to win their fights. Merab minus 330 favorite over Piotr Yan. Pantoja minus 245 favorite over Joshua Van. Luke Thomas says that the UFC and MMA become an aggressively right-wing sport, and a lot of people have strong opinions on that. He points to the fan base, some fighters, and even the promotion itself as leaning conservative. A big example is Trump being brought to UFC events multiple times and is known to be good friends with Dana White. Supporters of Thomas's take say MMA's culture, things like toughness, personal responsibility, and individualism naturally aligns with conservative values, and UFC leans into that appeal to its core audience. They also point out that MMA doesn't nearly have as much progressive activism as, say, the NBA, where players speak out on issues like racial justice and voting rights. On the other hand, critics say Thomas might be overstating it. MMA is still politically mixed. Lots of fighters and fans don't fit neatly into one category. While it's true UFC hasn't been as activist as the NBA, promotions mostly focus on business, not politics. Compared to the NFL, which has had huge social justice debates and controversy, MMA might only be right-wing or seem right-wing because of perception. In the end, whether you agree with Thomas probably depends on how much you focus on fighters' political statements, the fans, Dana White's ties to Trump, and the overall culture of the sport versus the fact that its core, it's just a business. Andrea Lee don't like Luke Thomas, and Luke Thomas takes UFC not for the sensitive, and Luke is sensitive. He can't handle when athletes talk shit. He always got to make it political and slam someone for being racist. He's just upset because the athletes get to keep fighting and never get canceled, and Dana doesn't take stupid questions as well. You ask a stupid question, he calls you out on it. I love it. I'm guessing Andrea Lee doesn't like Luke Thomas because he must have said something about her husband at the time when he had a swastika tattoo. She defended him by saying, neither of us are racist. We have an Asian and a black guy that live with us. Oh my gosh, it's a tattoo when he got in prison. Get over yourselves. He covers them up all the time, and we happen to have a lake day, and it makes an appearance. Sensitive ass mofos. A lot of people didn't like that apology, so she apologized for that apology. She was apologetic about it, but in the end, it did not work out between them. He got arrested for domestic abuse. Matt Brown doesn't like that Big John McCarthy supports the amendment to the Muhammad Ali Act. How much TKO paying you to turn your back on the fighters that you've been working to protect your whole career? Big John says, Matt, got nothing but respect for you. If you want to discuss this, I will talk to you anytime. They had the commission by the balls. If they want the UFC to come to their state, they'll do whatever TKO asks. Same for Big John. If he wants to resume his officiating career, he'll do whatever the commission and TKO wants. Exactly at the expense of the fighters. Big John is returning to officiating after taking a few years off. Patchy Mix can't catch a break right now. He went from 20-1 to 19-4 in the span of 6 months. Sucks. Who thinks Tom Aspinall would make $50 million to box? No chance. He's not that big of a mainstream star at the moment. Maybe if he beats a Pereira or he beats a John Jones. But it sounds like those guys want to fight each other. They're not interested in fighting Tom next. Like, comment, subscribe, and share if you want to donate. You can via Super Thanks. Until next time, thanks for watching.